What's up, everybody? It's your boy Phil Porto, photographer, videographer, and educator. And today I'm excited to continue our Dream Drift series. If you've never watched any of our Dream Drift videos, head back to the archives of the YouTube, check them out. The whole point of this series is for me, as an educator, to educate myself. I never want it to be like I have it all together or I know everything in the photo industry, because I don't. I just try to push myself constantly, and the only way to do that is to do that with people who do things other than what I do on a day in and day out basis. And so today I'm wicked stoked because I have a photographer here by the name of Ivana, and she is an incredible photographer. A lot of portrait and editorial work, and she shoots a lot with cameras like this guy right here, a lot of film. And so Ivana and I kind of met early in her career.
Yeah, like a while ago.
Yeah. And so I don't remember what the event was, but I was covering something and we talked, and she was telling me how she was really getting into trying to pursue this full time. And I checked out her work and it was great. And then fast forward and I get a message or a pop-up on my Instagram, and it was one of my team members, Brandon, and he was like, man, it's awesome that one of my favorite photographers right now is in my city. And I was like, who the heck is he talking about? And I was like, all right, I'm gonna check this out. And then I clicked the link and I was like, it's Ivana. And I was like, that's incredible. And so I'm the worst at Instagram and I don't really do much on there. So I didn't realize how much has happened in your career since, we first talked. And so give people a little idea of, your journey in photography, and where things started to kind of take a change for you.
Yeah, so I started about 5 years ago, and then I think that's around the time that we met. I think it was an Instagram thing. And I never really thought I would be a photographer, and then I just kind of I never stopped grabbing my camera. I went to go shoot all the time. I was shooting buildings, my coffee, things like that. And one day I just decided I'm gonna quit my office job and I'm going to be a full-time photographer. And at that time in my head, I'm like, this is perfect, this is great. But I had no idea the amount of business, how to even do it, and I just decided to take the risk. And it kind of, I ended up getting a job at an agency 2 years within doing that, and then I left the agency after working there for 2 years, and then I'm doing this now full-time. And yeah, I feel like it kind of, everything was put into place. It's really weird for me, but I'm so grateful to be here, of course, but everything did feel like domino pieces were just all right, cool, there you go. And then I kind of went into it head on.
That's awesome. And so for a while you were shooting digital, and then you started messing around with film, and now most of what I see from you comes from film. And you were kind of telling me that you took a photo using Kodak film, and Kodak wound up reposting that.
Oh yeah.
And all of a sudden, the floodgates of people started realizing who Ivana was. So what was it that made you, because for some people I see it happen the opposite way. They shoot primarily film, and then digital's gotten to a point where now they feel comfortable switching to digital. What was it that for you personally you felt all right, this is more of me, and this is really what I'm gonna kind of spend my time focusing on?
I don't really know exactly what got me started with it, but I just one day was I'm gonna try it out. I'm just gonna try and shoot film. It looks really cool. It's kind of the look I'm trying to achieve anyway, so let me just shoot. And I started off with the Yashica D as my medium format. And I actually went backwards. I went from medium format to now I'm shooting 35mm. But yeah, I don't take my digital camera anywhere anymore. It's all film, and I am obsessed. It just, again, it's one of those things, it just clicked.
Yeah.
I'm film, got it. Okay, good, let's do it.
That's awesome. So obviously from what I see you mostly shooting, you know, you came from working for the agency. So a lot of it is that editorial type feel.
Yeah.
And so with me, since I spent so many years, you know, in the wedding industry, it's kind of one of those things where like I do the opposite of staging, you know, like I'm trying not to stage so couples don't feel like it's a production.
Yeah, for sure.
But I love the idea of productions and being creative and being able to kind of like have a hand in the whole process, from the attire to the look and so forth. So tell me, like, what is it that you know, love about what you're currently doing, and like, what is it that you mostly find enjoyment shooting?
Honestly, as far as like commercial work goes, I really love the team aspect. I mean, you have like grippers that are handling the lights and this and that. You have like set designers, you have stylists, like everything is kind of like taken care of. And I get to do my part, and that's the photography. I mean, that's like the biggest thing with doing commercial shoots. It's my favorite thing. It's kind of like you can just sit there and you see like everyone's in their zone. They're doing their thing, and then we all come together to create this like awesome project. So I'd have to say that that's like my #1 thing with editorial commercial. Like I do love the whole aspect of team.
So with that, where do you get some of your influence? Like, because even though it's a team effort, you know, like the team is designated to make sure that when you conduct the shot, that it looks, the atmosphere is right, the lighting's right, all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But you still have to come up with the posing and how a model's body works in that scene. So where are you getting some of your inspiration?
I mean, I would have to say like Instagram, Pinterest. I'm looking at a lot of like even old school ads, like, you know, 70's aesthetic. Like I love how ads were, like the photos that were taken for that. So a lot of my posing, or a lot of the direction that I give, it's just stuff that I've seen from many like other people, you know, other like Vivian Meyer, like she's phenomenal street photographer. Like I'm looking at her stuff and how she's viewing the world, and it's just inspiration from a lot of other like legends basically. And that's where I get my creative direction. It's like I'm taking a shower and I'm like, oh yeah, like, this would be cool, and then I'm like, let me look at inspo, and then I just kind of put it together.
Yeah, that's awesome. My favorite thing that you said was one of your influences is a street photographer.
Yeah.
And that's the whole reason like I'm doing this series, is because I feel like wedding photographers are getting inspiration only from wedding photographers, or street photographers comparing to other street photographers, fashion, etc. And you can go down the line, and I feel like we miss a lot if we're only learning from the lane that we're in, you know?
Yeah. It's like a lot of people say like stay in your lane, like stay, you know, you're a wedding photographer, like that's where you're gonna stay, or find your niche and go with it. But I think that getting inspiration from everything, like I mean, even before being a full-time photographer, I was mostly taking photos of landscape, and I still do, like it's my favorite. But it's, you have to look at everyone else. Like I've looked at wedding photos, and you're awesome. I've looked at your stuff, like you get inspo from everywhere, and I think that's the important part, is that we all have to do that. Yeah,
and I agree. So that's why on this episode, we are going to pretty much take over our new studio. Ivana and I, you know, began chatting about doing this, and I wanted to put myself in her shoes as a photographer for a fully themed, modeled out shoot. And so her and I both instantly fell in love with the idea of doing a 70s style shoot.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And so that's pretty much what we're gonna do, is we are going to take over this 70s style vibe. We're gonna have 2 different sets. We have amazing models and an amazing team who's kind of come together to bring it to life. And you will be shooting film, and she will be shooting Kodak Portra 400?
800.
800.
Yep, 800.
All right, so she's gonna be shooting Kodak Portra 800, and then I'm gonna be, what camera are you gonna be shooting with?
This beautiful camera right here.
All right.
My Mamiya RZ67.
Awesome. So I'm gonna be shooting GFX 50R medium format, and I'm going to be using one of the Fuji simulations. There's a website called Fuji Weekly or something like that, and he creates these simulations. So I'm gonna lock in the Kodak Portrait one, and then our good friends at Coastal Film Labs are going to develop hers, and then we are not going to touch our images. No. I'm going to have my images straight out of camera with the film simulation. She's going to have hers, and then we're going to share them with you guys and see how they compare. As I go into this, I want to not have a solely fill type mindset. So what are a few things that you would say when on a shoot like that are things that I should keep in mind or push myself to try and achieve?
Man, I mean, I have to kind of put myself in your shoes. So you're coming from a world that's like very chaotic, you know, like wedding day, like you're on it. This is more like, I guess just like go with the flow. Like we have to have like music playing, like kind of feel it. And that's the only thing I could really give is just when you're doing shoots like this, like you feel it. You have to remember like you're not in a rush or you don't have to like get the shot. You're just in it.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be huge for me, is like knowing that like if I need another 15 minutes, it doesn't matter, you know, like it's my time. So that'll be huge. And so with weddings, I build relationships with these people, you know, so by the time the wedding day comes, it's kind of like I'm shooting a friend. Yeah, so with models, that's not always the case. Yeah. So how do you tackle that? Like being able to connect with a model on the spot and be able to direct them to kind of execute the vision that you have in your head?
So, I mean, that is actually the hard part because I feel like even socially I'm not very like open, but being in photography, you do have to network and you have to talk. So it's kind of pushed me out of my box a little bit. But just like dad jokes, you know, like dad jokes. I have all the dad jokes. Like just talking to them, I feel like that's the important part. Also sharing it. Now this is different though because with film I can't go, oh look at this image I shot of you, but you know, just kind of like even hyping them up. Like every time I take a photo, I don't even realize I do this, but I'm always like, yes, oh my gosh, perfect, yeah. And I sound crazy, but every single time I get a great response and I'm just like, I love that you're like that. You know, you kind of make them feel comfortable and beautiful. Yeah. Like male and female, like you just make them feel beautiful.
That's awesome. So for someone who's watching this and, you know, are kind of in that spot that you were in, you know, like I like this, don't know if I can do this full time or if I will do this full time, like what kind of advice would you give someone that's really trying to enter into the field of editorial, agency, commercial type work?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing for me, and I'm so happy and I'll never regret it, was really just quitting my job and going forward. Because if I didn't do that, I think I definitely would have taken like, you know, the baby steps of like, oh, let me test this out. Like, do I like this? Having to go for it and you're hungry, like you want to eat, you know, like it kind of pushes you to be a little bit more business mindset. You're like, okay, I actually do need this job. Like I do need to do this. So taking the risk, I mean, I think that's all this is like risking everything.
That's awesome. And so give me like two either companies or people that you're just like, goals is to shoot something for this.
Gosh, I really want to shoot for Zara, and I like, yes, like their stuff lately has been so great, and it looks like film. Yeah. I mean, I think some of it is a mixture of film and digital, and I just love their outfits. I love the fact that it's like modern street style. Like it looks so cool. So definitely Zara, and wow, like. I mean, it would be awesome to shoot for like paper magazine, to shoot a cover for a magazine. Yeah. I think that's the goal for sure.
All right, so Zara, paper, if you're watching this, let us take over and we got this.
Let's do it.
So we are going to start our shoot now, and then once we have the photos back, I'm actually gonna have Ivana take a look at mine and give some critiques, some pointers based off of what I created for the next time her and I, or her and someone else, someone else, I mean, yeah. Anyway, for the next time I do it, I'm gonna get some points from her and we'll share those with you guys as well. But for now, we're gonna get set up because this whole place by tomorrow morning is going to look completely different. So here's some behind the scenes footage of us setting up and getting everything ready. And the next thing you'll see is us at the shoot and me working side by side with Ivana and her killing it and me just trying to catch up. So until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Oh, hold up, not stopping yet.
Oh my gosh.
Ivana.
Yes.
Where can people find you?
Oh, Instagram at von.co. That's where you can find me, easy at von.co.
Awesome.
but are we okay? I wonder if you'll pick up the phone. Will you ramble secrets I've never known? Convincing yourself they've got it wrong tonight, tonight, tonight.
Shooting this collaboration was a lot of fun. I mean, there was a lot of moving parts. It took us like, I think, a couple months or a couple weeks of planning. And it was really nice to see it all come together. And the day of the shoot, it was like I was just in awe. It was great shooting alongside you, for sure. Some of the strengths that I saw in you was definitely your lighting situation. I mean, I didn't really take into account the fact that with my film, although I was shooting ISO 800, the lighting was still going to be too dark. So you were already prepared with like lighting the scene and having it sync with your equipment. So I thought that was a major strength, especially because it's so important, even in film, to have that right. I think that moving forward, shooting this type of style, maybe having, less models or having a different lighting situation too, if you were going to try and shoot film, I think that would definitely help improve shooting these types of like looks in the future. Especially the reason why I say less models is because you can have more time with each one and you don't have models just like waiting around. I've had that experience with like client shoots, and we try to like organize the time accordingly. But aside from that, I mean, I think that your style of shooting is up to par. I don't think you don't really need to change much. You're there. You're definitely there. So I'm just now seeing the images that you took, and I love them. I mean, I think that they're great. I can still see the difference between digital and film, and I'm not sure exactly why or what it is, but aside from that, I mean, your images came out great. Like I said, I keep going back to this, but your lighting was perfect. I absolutely loved it. And yeah, I mean, I think they're awesome. Some advice that I can give you moving forward would definitely be to try shooting film, especially medium format film. It'll for sure challenge you. I mean, I know you're shooting medium format digital, which, like I said, the photos came out so awesome. But I think challenging yourself is like key to photography, no matter what. So shooting medium format would be great. And honestly, more snacks. Moving forward, just provide more snacks.
So thank you guys so much for watching this episode of the Dream Drift series. I want to give a huge shout out to Ivana for being part of this. It was seriously an incredible experience, and before I get off, I want to share the things that I personally learned from this experience, since that's the whole point of this series. I feel like Ivana was very, very kind and generous in her critiques, because there are a lot of things that I feel I still need to improve on, but there are some things that I really, really took away from this experience with her. And the first is, like she said, a team truly makes a vision come to life. So there are so many amazing vendors and so many amazing models that kind of gave their time and their effort to be part of this vision. So I want to thank them so much, and all of their links are in the description of this video. So please support them, check them out, see what they're doing, and partner with them if you're local in the Tampa, Florida area. And then the next thing I learned was, yes, she is so right about the amount of models. Since I've never really done this, I typically have a dream big and try to execute big most of the time. So I kind of swung for the fences, and even though we tried to create a perfect timeline, it didn't happen. And so there was a lot of like waiting around time, and you can sense that that gets a little distracting, and also a little boring for those that aren't actually on set. So definitely think a little smaller next time, and think about how to make that one thing more grand than having to do two things that are really, really good. The next thing I was really, really surprised by, but thankful for, was her critiques on my lighting. If you know my wedding work, you know that I don't use any off-camera flash at all. I love it for those who do it. It's just not our style, so we typically don't. Some of our friends, you know, in Rad Red Creative, I went to a workshop of theirs just so that I can know it and be educated in it. And so it's not a lack of understanding of it. It's just not something I really do on a week in, week out basis. So when getting the studio, that was something I really wanted to push myself in, was lighting, because I felt like for this kind of work, it just is very, very different when you add that extra punch of the off-camera lighting with the strobes and whatnot. And so having her compliment me on that really, really meant a lot, because I have been working really hard at it. So this is something I still want to learn. So if there's someone that you think does amazing portraiture work in a studio with strobes, please leave a comment so that I can check them out, because I always want to keep pushing myself in this area. The more snacks, couldn't agree more. I personally, when I'm working, don't really think about food. I kind of will go hours and hours and hours without eating, so it's easy for me to forget that people need to eat. So yes, more snacks is definitely a must for next time. But some major things that I learned was that I have to think differently, like for sure think differently. So when I'm at a wedding, I think of certain poses, I think of certain things that I can do, I have different visions of what I'm doing, and I noticed that when it came to like posing and stuff like that, I started off very much that way. Like, what are my limitations based off of what I typically do in a wedding? And not realizing that I don't have those limitations when it comes to studio work or models, that I don't really have to worry about someone not wanting to do something. Like, this is my shoot, they're gonna do it. And Ivana was able to do that and kind of spark that in me. Matter of fact, one of my favorite photos, I had them standing up, looked fine, looked okay, and then she had them sit down, and all of a sudden, like, my mind completely switched, and I was like, oh my gosh, I wanna do this. And then I was able to kind of mold. So I give her a shout for this photo, because it wouldn't have been created without her. And then another shout to one of the models. He actually is a photographer himself. And so I was like taking some photos, and he was like, hey, do you mind if I take a photo with my iPhone? And so he went to take the picture, and he wound up like getting this perfect lighting shot of one of our models with a cigarette in his hand on a chair. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so dope. And when I took it, I loved it, but I gotta give him credit, because I don't want people to think that I created that dope photo when it was actually his like genius mind thinking outside of the box. So that's a few shout outs that I wanna give. What I noticed about Ivana is that she's not afraid to try something. Like, if it doesn't work, she kind of tries it and then moves on. A lot of times, if I don't think it's gonna be dope, like no matter what, I'll kind of shelf it for a little while. But she definitely was willing to say, all right, I'm gonna try this. I didn't love it, let's move on. You don't really do that at a wedding day, because you don't want to say, I didn't really like that, because then you have your bride or groom thinking it's about them or something that they did, as opposed to just artistically didn't actually execute what I wanted to execute. So that's a few, you know, pointers that I got from my time with Ivana. And I really, really just loved the experience. And I know that this is something that I want to continue to do and continue to pursue. And so I want to challenge you guys as you watch these, push yourself. Find a different genre than what you normally shoot and say, I want to execute this. Let me find someone in my area that I can talk to and shadow or work with. Because this was just a small idea that turned into a really grand event. And I learned so much from it. And honestly, I feel like it's grown me as a photographer, and I'm looking forward to the next one. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and until next time, God bless you guys.